Vladimir Putin. According to the Telegraph, he's up to his tricks again. Last week, a Russian defector was found slumped on a bench in a shopping centre.
It is now clear that Mr. Skripal and his daughter were poisoned with a military-grade nerve agent of a type developed by Russia.
In my movie pitch today, we're going to major on how the Kremlin works, how Vladimir Putin operates and how he deals with his enemies, and how he is, in fact, ripe for the Godfather treatment.
If history's taught us anything, it says you can kill anyone.
Vladimir Putin the movie, let's get stuck in. Drive to ZZ, Salisbury.
Heading to ZZ Salisbury, 1/3 Castle Street, Salisbury.
Sergei and his daughter stumbled out and staggered down here, Market Walk, as his enemies took revenge for what he had done. Sergei Skripal was one of NATO's highest placed agents within the Russian intelligence service.
Russia's record of conducting state-sponsored assassinations and our assessment that Russia views some defectors as legitimate targets for assassinations, the government has concluded that it is highly likely that Russia was responsible for the act against Sergei and Yulia Skripal.
This place is crawling with cops. The London Road Cemetery, where Sergei Skripal's wife and son are buried. The police and the security services are now investigating whether they might in fact have been poisoned too. Vladimir Putin, the movie. Who would want to make a movie like this? I think it could be a great movie, but there are some inherent risks.
Is it safe? Yes, it's safe. It's very safe. It's so safe you wouldn't believe it.
If the guy doesn't like it, where are we going to end up? Any studio would need balls of steel to make this movie, and we need to help them out. First off, we need to go the primary colours route. John Travolta was a thinly disguised version of Bill Clinton. It was clearly Clinton. It was written by a Clinton insider, but I think it gives you the option to fictionalize things, which is what's required here, and also give you a get out. That would be my first organizing principle.
Tell me, is it safe?
Second, we don't want to fall into the true story trap. Because it happened, then it must be interesting. For a biopic to pass the smell test, it's got to be as interesting as fiction. What we need to do is to look at Putin's life and just try and tell a small part of it, rather than trying to do the desperate cradle-to-grave biopic.
We must never lower our guard.
Edgar, you will rise to be the most powerful man in the country.
There are many things that Putin's done which are newsworthy and dramatic, but what we ultimately need is a villain. We need Putin to have a villain, someone for him to compete against, someone for him to have mortal combat with. And there is one such man. As I stand in the pissing rain in the London Road Cemetery. So this movie is about the relationship between Vladimir Putin, whose name we'll fictionalize, and the richest man in Russia. Boris Berezovsky handpicked Putin to be his poodle, to be his political puppet. But Putin had other ideas, turned the tables on Boris and became his master. Boris became the slave and paid the price for underestimating Putin, as many people have. The West, Obama, Donald Trump, Sergei Skripal, they all underestimated Vladimir Putin.
Is it safe? No, it's not safe. It's very dangerous. Be careful.
In 1989, the end of the Cold War, the Berlin Wall has fallen, and we're in Dresden at the KGB station, which is in a state of panic. It's being besieged by a popular uprising. There's a mob outside. They know there are Russian KGB spies inside, and they want blood. They want to take revenge for 50 years of occupation and repression. And the man in charge? A young colonel, Vladimir Peskov. Just a disclaimer, this did happen. This was Putin. It's vintage Putin. But let's remember, the character who we meet at the beginning of the movie is not the same guy, the Godfather figure, who he becomes during this movie. We need him to grow and to change. And here he is, a young KGB colonel. And while many men are running and deserting their post, Vladimir has one thing on his mind. There are reams of classified documents and intelligence files on the Americans, on the East Germans, on everybody. And his big fear is this information is going to fall into the wrong hands. Then the shredder breaks. There are bricks coming through the window. Everyone's saying, we've got to leave. He calls Moscow. Moscow says, it's over. We lost the Cold War. When you run out of money, you run out of power. And that line is the key line of the whole movie. It's the theme. And at that moment, a Molotov cocktail comes sailing through the window. The KGB men are panicking, but it gives Vladimir some inspiration. He orders his team to get the classified documents into the cellar and burn it all in the furnace. And they're burning these documents. The mob are growing stronger. They've got a truck which they're going to drive through the front. And Vladimir steps up and he says, I will go out and talk to them. His men think he's crazy. It's a death sentence. He walks out. What he tells them is, on the roof, there are multiple snipers. And if they come in the building, the snipers are going to open up and they're going to die. And for what? There's something about Vladimir that convinces them that this guy is not bluffing, even though he's bluffing like a mother. And everyone retreats. The information is saved. Vladimir pours himself a vodka and collapses with the stress. So that's our opening scene. Now, I am not going to go into detail about the whole of the movie, but this is the scene and I wanted to tell you about it in detail because it informs everything that follows. This whole experience gives him an overwhelming fear and insecurity about popular uprising and what happens when democracy arrives on your doorstep. Vladimir is at his most dangerous when he's weak. That's when he comes out fighting, and that's when he plays a very strong hand.